And we are back with another video live from Washington State. Week 17 of the NFL season is quickly approaching, and there's a lot of games with playoff implications.
We are introducing a new segment this week we like to call the Prodigies Picks. We will introduce every single game from the week and give our score predictions and how it affects each team.
So let's start it off, Joe.
What do we think about the football team versus the Eagles?
Well, Alex Smith is supposedly coming back this week along with Antonio Gibson and Terry McLaurin, if I'm not mistaken. And I think that is a loaded football team right there. I mean, literally. I think that the Eagles are they're depleting on defense. They're not doing as well as they should. They threw to Deshaun Jackson. I don't know what's wrong with the coaching there. But they threw to Deshaun Jackson once. And that one throw, he had an 80-yard touchdown. Jalen Hurts didn't play his best, but, I mean, you got to be thrown to the guy that's hot. In the hot seat at that time was Deshaun Jackson, and he got 0 targets after that. So personally, I think the football team will win. I don't think it'll be a blowout. I'd say 24-13 football team.
What are we thinking about the Saints versus the Panthers this week?
The Saints, no running backs. I mean, they're literally calling people up from their practice squad, and I think whoever it is that they are calling up, I believe it's undecided so far, will be starting, but I think we'll see a lot more of Taysom Hill this week. I believe he was either 4-1 or 5-1 as the starter when Drew Brees was out with his rib and lung injury. But, I mean, the way that he plays is weird. He can throw the ball. He got into the end zone for the first time in like 10 to 15 years. But the way he runs the ball is very, very elusive. The way that he makes cuts is insane. So I'm gonna have to go Saints on this one. I think the Panthers just don't have it offensively or defensively. Without C-Mac, it's just, I mean, obviously they have great running back core still without him and a great receiving core, but I don't think Teddy B is doing all that great in Carolina, and their defensive scheme is not that good. So I'll have to go 24-10 with the Saints.
Interesting. I think it'll be a lot closer than that, but we'll definitely see.
Well, why do you think that?
Well, because Drew Brees hasn't been playing well this year, and with that rib injury, he is not completely healthy.
But he hasn't played terribly. He also hasn't had Michael Thomas to throw to.
Yeah, but if you look back, the first time the Saints and Panthers played each other, it was a very close game. Teddy Bridgewater knows that defense. He knows how they play.
That is true. I didn't think about that.
He may be able to. We might see an upset, but I will also be going with the Chiefs on that one.
All right. Well, I think I'm going to have to agree with you there because I totally forgot about Teddy Bridgewater being on the Saints. So I'm going to have to agree with you there. Next one.
What are we thinking about the Chargers and the Chiefs?
Well, you know, with the Chiefs starters being out, I think the Chargers have a great shot at winning this game. But I still think the Chiefs, from where their secondaries, like second stringers, have learned from the great first stringers of Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, Tyrann Mathieu, Tyreek Hill, I think that they have a chance of winning this football game. So I'm not going to call it a blowout, which I usually would if their starters were all in, because the Chargers have all their starters in, all their healthy starters in. So I'm going to have to go Chiefs on this one, but I'm going to go 30 the Chiefs and 27 the Chargers.
I'll say this about the Chargers. If they lose this game to the Chiefs, who are playing for nothing at all, they've already clinched the 1 seed, you got to clean house with the coaching. This team is way too talented to have the record that they do.
I agree with you. I agree, and I think the coaching already there is not the best. And I think if they got a new coach, I mean, I've been saying this a lot. I think the Chargers will be very scary next year. I think they'll be a very great team, fully healthy. Justin Herbert, great Rookie of the Year candidate. Don't know if he'll win it or not because of Justin Jefferson, but, I mean, he's the answer in the Chargers, undoubtedly.
What are we thinking about the Raiders and Broncos game?
Raiders-Broncos, that'll be interesting. Obviously doesn't mean anything much at all. Really just playing for pride and who wants to win it more. And I think the Broncos will win it just because the Raiders have been playing terribly. I mean, they started off great and they beat the Chiefs. And they've just been in a lot of close games lately. And I think the Broncos can figure it out with Drew Lock, and they'll figure it out defensively. And, I mean, obviously, I think the Broncos, if Drew Lock becomes a better quarterback, I think the Broncos can be scary because that defense is going to be good. But I'm going to take the Broncos in this one, and I'm going to go like 10-7 Broncos.
Sure. All right. Here's what I'm thinking for this game. Drew Lock has been off and on and off and on all season.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of Broncos fans are thinking, this isn't the guy. And we've seen plenty of evidence saying that he is not the guy. John Elway has not been able to get a good quarterback in Denver since Peyton Manning retired. So I think this is going to be a big game for Drew Lock. If he performs very well, who knows? He might end up being the starter into next season. But if Drew Lock underperforms, then they might have to draft a quarterback. And I even think they could get Matthew Stafford this offseason.
And I agree, and I think that's a good move. I think Matthew Stafford's very underrated. Play his, last couple of years out in Denver? Why not? Why not with a team that has a lot more potential than the Detroit Lions?
Exactly. All right, what are we thinking of the Titans-Texans game?
Another game that doesn't matter for the Texans, but the Titans, it's really a must-win here. So I think undoubtedly the Titans are going to win this, but they've been playing terribly. So the real question is, I honestly think that the Texans, great offensively, with the loss of Will Fuller to the PED violation, their offense is not the best. Their running back has done terribly this year. Duke Johnson has not done the greatest. Deshaun Watson, on the other hand, is still throwing for at least 300 yards a game and 2 to 3 touchdowns. Deshaun Watson having a great season. So for that fact alone, I just don't think that they're going to even be close in this game. The Texans offensively have just not been great at all. So just for that reason, I think the Titans are going to blow them out. I'll go 30-7 Titans.
I am going to have to agree with you on that one. And Derrick Henry wants to get 2,000 yards on the season. He would have to get about 230 rushing yards, but that Texans defense is awful.
And especially to Derrick Henry, I'm going to put my money on Derrick Henry getting either really close to that or getting it.
Yeah.
The least amount that he's been held to this year was by the Steelers and I believe the
Bears.
The Bears, right? And that was called in the 70-yard margin with about a rushing touchdown. So, yeah, I have to agree with you on that one.
And they have to play for something. They win, they're in. So this is very, very big for them.
And, yeah.
What are we thinking about the Jags versus the Colts?
What a game. What a game. Not at all. Jags are going to do terribly. The Jags are the worst team, and that's why they're getting the first pick. The Jags cannot do anything offensively, even though they have one of the best, if not the best, running back in this draft, James Robinson. They cannot do anything offensively at all. The Colts, they kept it close with the Steelers, and they probably should have won that game. I'm going to be totally honest. I don't know how the Pittsburgh Steelers really pulled that out. The offensive play calling got a lot better towards the end. They started running the ball a lot more. They started actually being able to run the ball a lot more, and Big Ben came out and showed off. The Colts, they're not doing good defensively or offensively. Defensively, I think is more where they shine because of Phillip Rivers is just he's not doing terribly, but he's not having a year where you're like, I want that as my starting quarterback for the rest of his time. And he has a good receiving core too. T.Y. Hilton is very good when used correctly. So, and for that reason alone, I think the Colts will easily beat the Jags, but it's going to be a stupidly close game when it shouldn't be. And for that, I'm going to go 7-13 Colts. 7-14 Colts.
I could see something like that. Other than that, I got no comment. There's no way the Colts lose this game. What are we thinking about the Rams-Cardinals game?
This game is going to be great. This is going to be one of the games to watch this week, especially. And that's just because they're both obviously in the same division, and they're both playing for a playoff spot, correct? So the Rams, oh my gosh, I like Jared Goff. Let me correct myself. I liked Jared Goff until he started playing like how he's been playing. Him and Russell Wilson, that Seattle and Rams game was one of the hardest games, I think Seahawks fans, you can agree, to watch besides the Giants' loss. That has to be one of the hardest games to watch. If you have DK Metcalf and Russell Wilson and Tyler Lockett, you should be getting to the end zone all the time. Okay, look at Jared Goff. He's a decent quarterback, and a lot of people compare him to Sam Darnold, which I think is very interesting. Jared Goff with Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp, that should be getting to the end zone a lot more. The running back core isn't even that great at all. They don't get a lot of rushing touchdowns. It's usually Jared Goff having to do something and throw it weirdly, not how he likes, and end up usually throwing an interception in the red zone. I think that's why he's looked so down upon. A couple of years ago, you look at the Rams, they were in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
That's
great team.
That was the most amazing team. And not much has really changed since then.
Nope.
You still have Aaron Donald. He's still a freaking workhorse. You still have Jared Goff. You got Robert Woods. You got Cooper Kupp. Why don't you just be what you were 2 to 3 years ago? And that's just, it's all around Jared Goff. It's all around how he does. With John Wolford starting this week, it's going to be a very tight game. The Cardinals, DeAndre Hopkins and Kyler Murray. Let me say that again. DeAndre Hopkins and Kyler Murray. Think about that. That was an MVP candidate quarterback and one of the best, if not the best, receiver in the league. So why is your team in the hunt right now? That's a good question. Their defense doing great. Budda Baker, I think he's an amazing defensive player. I really do. But the way Kyler Murray and D-Hop have been playing for the past, let's see, they had one good game where Kyler Murray, I believe, threw for over 400 yards and 3 to 4 touchdowns, and D-Hop had over like 120 receiving and 2 or 3 of those receiving touchdowns.
Yeah.
But you can't have that good of a core right there, and Larry Legend, who obviously hasn't been the greatest this year, but he's still a great player. You can't have that good of a receiving core and be on and off. You should be consistent. And I'm saying consistent like, D-Hop's getting 80 yards and a touchdown. Kyler Murray's throwing for 280 plus, closer to 300, and 2 to 3 touchdowns with a few rushing yards, sure, because he does like to rush a lot. But you got to be consistent like that. You can't have games where it's D-Hop, 2 receptions, 36 yards, no touchdowns. Kyler Murray, 2 interceptions, 250 yards and a rushing touchdown or something like that. You can't have that. And so for this one, it's going to be a close one. I'm going to go 24-23 Rams.
Okay. I'm actually going to have to agree with you. I do think the Rams will pull this one out. I watched last week, Niners-Cardinals. Robert Saleh's defense was all over Kyler Murray. And even the last play of the game, Kyler Murray hurt his lower leg. So we'll see how much that affects him in that game. Aaron Donald's going to be getting through the line probably every time. It all depends on how John Wolford plays, and I don't know what to expect from him, but I'm still going to go the Rams. So what are we thinking about the Steelers and the Browns? So
the Steelers, they have sat down their starting center Marquise Pouncey. They have sat down Big Ben, starting Mason Rudolph this week, and they've sat down. Joe Hayden has COVID-19, I believe, and we have T.J. Watt out and Cameron Hayward. All core players. The Steelers are a terrible team without their defense. I don't care what you think about the Steelers, but they are a terrible team without their defense, okay? Their best rusher, in my opinion, was T.J. Watt this year, all year, but Bud Dupree was right there behind him. The loss of Bud Dupree is a huge reason on those 3 losses that they have right now. And, of course, the loss of both their starting cornerbacks in one game, Nelson and Hayden, due to concussion and I believe a knee problem with Hayden. But he's back now. And the loss to their defense is too crucial. So the loss to their defense now is even worse. Yes, the Browns are coming off their loss to the Jets, so they got a chip on their shoulder right now. And the Steelers and Browns, they've always had bad blood throughout all the years of history that they've played against each other, and especially last year with the Mason Rudolph, Myles Garrett incident. So both teams are playing with a chip on their shoulder. I don't think it'll be a blowout, but I'm going to say the exact same score for the Rams as the Rams in the Cardinals game. I'm going to go 24-23 Browns.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with that. The Browns are playing for a lot more. The Steelers, they'd be playing their players if they were playing for something.
Yeah.
So
can't get a better or worse seed.
And Baker's got something to prove here. You want the Browns to be in the playoffs for the first time in who knows how long? Well, here's your chance to get them there.
I agree. All right, let's move to the second half of the games. Let's start with the Hawks and Niners.
The Hawks and Niners. Many people are saying Seattle's going to win this game. I actually don't believe so. I think Robert Saleh is playing for a head coaching job. Last week, we saw that dynamic Cardinals offense do close to not much against the Niners. And they're starting C.J. Beathard without Brandon Ayuk. I don't think Seattle, even though all those losses to the 49ers offense, Seattle hasn't been playing all that great. Their offense has been very stingy, just very stale. And I think because of that, I'm actually going to take the 49ers in a really ugly game, 17-14.
Wow. Even with how Seattle's defense has been playing lately, you're going to take that?
Yep.
All right. I like it. How about the Dolphins and the Bills? What do we think about that?
Wow, that is a huge game with a lot of playoff implications. The Bills are arguably the hottest team in football right now. Josh Allen is playing like an MVP, and Stephon Diggs is playing like one of the best receivers in pro football right now. The Dolphins' defense, it's really good, but I don't know how you stop the Bills and their red-hot momentum right now.
I mean, the way that Diggs runs routes and gets past those defensive players, it's insane.
He will be guarded by Xavier Howard. I think that'll be a really cool matchup to see this week. I don't trust Tua at all. Ryan Fitzpatrick won't be playing. Tua is not meant to throw 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. He is a lot more of a game manager from what we've seen this year. I think they might have thrown him into the fire a little too early. So because of that, I'm going to take the Bills 31 to 17.
I like it. I don't have to agree with you there. I mean, the way the Bills have played offensively, even defensively too, but offensively obviously is where they shine.
Yeah.
And I agree with you 100%. Let's go with the Ravens and the Bengals. Division matchup.
Wow, yeah, that's going to be a great one. Not. The Ravens are going to absolutely destroy the Bengals this week. They have been playing red hot these last few weeks. Lamar Jackson's finally getting his game together. The defense is playing extremely well. They're finally done with all the COVID stuff. Everyone's back to good health. This is going to be a blowout. I'm going to go Ravens 40 to 15.
Wow.
Yeah.
40. I like it. I'm going to have to agree with you. I think the score's a bit high, but honestly, I could see a blowout from the Ravens. I mean, the way they're now fully healthy. I mean, look at them. The Steelers, the only reason they beat them, in my opinion, is because both times they played them, either Lamar was out or Lamar was in and the rest of their team was out.
Yeah.
What do we think about the Vikings and the Lions this week?
Not much.
Yeah.
I don't think much of that at all. Dalvin Cook won't be playing. Nobody's going to watch this game.
No. I do have something to say, though, about Kirk Cousins.
Okay.
Do you think he has something to prove? Let me ask you that. Do you think he still has something to prove? Do you think he's in danger of possibly losing his starting job?
I do not. I think he's played very well this year. I think his defense has been historically bad this year.
But you can't say he's consistently played well. I mean, there's games that he's thrown 200 yards, a touchdown, 2 interceptions. Multiple games like that. And the games that the Vikings are winning is because he has over 300 yards, and it's not because of Dalvin Cook.
Yeah.
Dalvin Cook's carrying that team, but he's carrying them to show, we're close, but we lose.
Yeah.
It's because Kirk Cousins can't do it.
Yeah, and I look at the Saints game as a great example. Kirk Cousins played way better than Drew Brees in that game, but Kamara went off for 6 touchdowns on that defense.
And there's not much you can do about that.
Their defense is very bad. I don't think the blame should be all on Kirk Cousins. The defense, even Mike Zimmer, the head coach, said himself, this is the worst defense he's ever coached in his life. So for score, I'm going to, with Matthew Stafford being officially playing this week, I'm going to go the Lions are going to win this game 17-12.
I like it, and I'm going to have to agree with you on that one. And with who's it, Dan Bailey, that their kicker?
Yeah,
being
awful.
Terrible. Yeah, I agree that he's going to miss all of those extra points.
Probably.
All right, this one's going to be probably the game of the week, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the Jets and the Patriots. How are we feeling about that?
Wow, I got a lot to say about this one. Patriots are playing, I honestly think they're playing maybe the second worst team in football next to the Jaguars. The Jets are red hot right now, beating the Rams and Browns, 2 playoff teams, maybe costing them their playoff spots. The Jets defense isn't bad. I think Darnold is going to come out and play his heart out, which he does every week.
Yeah.
He's surrounded by terrible coaching and just bad schemes. So I honestly think the Jets are going to go on this 3-game winning streak and beat the Patriots.
I agree. Cam Newton's also been playing terribly.
Awful.
Who I've been saying since the start. Cam Newton shouldn't have talked as much as he did preseason because you come out and you do that, you're shut down, man. No one's looking at you now. The Pats, you better get a quarterback in the draft.
Yeah. And with all that being said, I'm taking the Jets 24-10. Because let's think about it. Cam Newton has thrown less than 10 touchdowns to receivers this year. He doesn't even have 10 passing touchdowns this year. That's unheard of. So, yeah, 24-10 Jets.
I like it. Everyone's going to look over this game, and I'm telling you right now, do not. Falcons, Bucks.
The Falcons are probably the team that has underperformed the most this year. There is a lot of games that they should have won, including last week against the Chiefs. That game was in their hands. They blew it like they normally do. The Bucks, they got COVID riddled this week. Devin White's going to be out. A lot of their players aren't going to be playing on the defensive side of the ball, and I think that's going to greatly affect Todd Bowles' scheme of blitzing almost every play, because that's how the Buccaneers generate turnovers, generate sacks, and all that. I am actually going to be taking the Falcons in this game, and I'm going to take them 31-24 against the Buccaneers.
I couldn't agree more. It's the week where they're just going to be like, screw it, we're going out there, we're going to do what we do best. We got freaking Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley and Matt Ryan at quarterback. We're going to go out there and we're going to show the Bucs that they're not the best team and they're not going to go anywhere in the playoffs. With that being said, the next game we got is Cowboys-Giants.
This game is actually one of the biggest games of the week because this game could decide the NFC least, in the words of Skip Bayless. But here's what I have to say about this game. Cowboys and Giants. Wow, there's not a lot to say, but the Cowboys have been on a hot streak as of late. Their offense has been playing amazing. I couldn't believe when Jalen Hurts could not move the ball in the second half against the Cowboys last week. I could not believe that. So they're going to be riding high with a lot of momentum, but that's when upsets happen. When you feel like the best team in football, you feel like you're the hottest team in football, that's when upsets tend to happen. And the Giants' defense is good. They have a good defense. I think Daniel Jones has something to prove this week. I think they're going to win in a pretty ugly game, probably 20-17.
All right, not much to say there for me. I agree with everything you just said. I totally agree. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the game of the week. The best rivalry in all of football, Packers-Bears. What are we thinking?
Well, I'm going to go away from my bias here. I am a Packers fan. But I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be able to adjust. He's got my vote for MVP this year, no doubt. But the Bears are also riding hot. But let's think about the teams they played. Lions, Vikings, Jags. Those are
started off 5-0, then ended up, 5-6 after that?
Started 5-1,
or 5-1.
It was bad. But they've been playing great these last 4 games, and Mitchell Trubisky, he's got something to prove. However, Green Bay is playing for a lot more than just a playoff spot. They're playing for the home field advantage and probably the best home field advantage at the frozen tundra in Lambeau Field. So I think MVP Aaron Rodgers will be on full display, and they are going to win this game outright 38-27.
All right, I like the score prediction. I think we look over the Green Bay Packers running back core a little too much. I think you guys have one of the best running back cores in the NFL solely because of A.J. Dillon. That is insane. He ran, that was his first game. Did he even start? Aaron Jones was starting.
Aaron Jones was starting.
And he ran for over 120 rushing yards.
124, 2 touchdowns.
2 touchdowns. Are you kidding me?
In
you come out and do that as a rookie? You should be a lot more noticed. He should have been a lot more noticed last week.
Let's not forget, he was the second-round pick of the Packers. Everyone was hating on that pick, seeing we already had Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones, both proven backs. But he is a beast, and I think we were saving him for the playoffs.
Yep.
Especially if we're playing at Lambeau Field in the snow and the cold. That's what the Packers are building for. Well, after this Sunday is over, we will look over each pick and go over them on our next show to see if we were right or if we were wrong.
Thank you, everyone, for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe and share this video. Thanks for watching.